I think she just decided that it was, people needed some good news.
Little Max Edelstein's safe arrival was good news for his parents, too. Yet they both admit they are apprehensive.
It was sort of overwhelming, the idea that there's so much death and destruction going on, and here we were bringing a new life into the world, and what that world would be for this child.
Yeah, we even tried to call right away, to call our congresspeople to ask them, to push for justice rather than revenge. We want peace. We don't want more killing.
His name is Jaden Francisco Muniz, and I had him today at 8:06 a.m.
Tina Muniz is praying for peace especially hard. Little Jaden's father doesn't yet know his son has been born. Tina's husband is in the U.S. Navy, serving aboard a submarine that is somewhere in the world.
I have no way of getting in contact with him probably for a month and a half.
The past 6 days have been terribly hard for Tina. First the attack, now the talk of war.
Him being in the world now with this going on, it's you don't even want to think about it. Hopefully bringing this life into the world is making those around me more joyful.
All of these new parents and the labor-weary nurses are at heart optimistic.
It's hope. The children are our hope. And that's a new generation that we're bringing into the world. And they're our hope.
Alex's mother thought we should call her Hope because when she was born.
They didn't name her Hope, although for her parents she does represent it.
She's being born into the world, but she's also coming into the world. She'll make it better.
I think it's still a good world. I just think we have to believe that.
Maybe we do. Beth Nissen, CNN, New York.
Kick him back.
Good morning. You're looking at a live picture there from New York. You see the smoke still rising from the rubble there at Ground Zero.
Still from the fires burning beneath the rubble as they lift and search for more victims. The mayor of New York is still saying that more than 4,900 people are officially still missing, but they will search for anyone who may still be alive until all hope is lost.
And there you see the process still underway this morning. And I want to just tell you about this one quote I saw from one of the truckers who's out there working in that scene right there, hauling away the debris from that site and taking it to a landfill. He said that they hit the World Trade Center, they hit the Pentagon, but they missed America.
You bet. You see a lot of the American spirit out there as people work round the clock, 20-hour shifts, nonstop, under very difficult circumstances, trying to keep the hope of so many families still alive. There are miracles that we see all the time in these disaster areas.
And we're still talking to people who are hoping for even more miracles.
We're going to be staffing that position all day today. And if you have just joined us, we want to bring you the latest developments in the terrorist attacks and the recovery. The New York Stock Exchange, the Mercantile Exchange, the New York Board of Trade, the NASDAQ, they are all reopening today. Also, Pakistan delivers a message from the United States to Afghanistan's ruling Taliban rulers today: turn over suspected terrorist Osama bin Laden. And new arrest warrants have been issued for 2 material witnesses. The warrants remain sealed. No information, including any names or descriptions, is being released. And the numbers from New York right now, as we just said, Leon, exactly 4,957 people missing, 190 people confirmed dead.
Yes, and despite that, President Bush is urging Americans to go back to work today, to resume your normal lives, try to get on with things. And rescue workers will be doing that. They'll be getting things off to a start, hopefully a good start, at the stock exchange this morning, the New York Stock Exchange. They'll be helping to ring the bell to open trading there. And, you've probably seen observances of moments of silence for the victims of these terrorist disasters. Well, this morning, for the Twin Towers, there will be 2 minutes of silence for the victims there. Now, over the weekend, operations at the historic trading center were tested. Exchange officials say that the computer systems and the communication systems are all working. The Wall Street subway station, though, is closed, and the statue of George Washington outside had to be cleaned. Now, we are just about 4 hours away from opening. Of course, there'll be plenty of live coverage of it right here on CNN. Now, there is certainly, in the meantime, a lot of nervousness as these markets prepare for the opening. Overnight, CNN Financial News' Jack Cafferty took calls on CNN's economy hotline, and here's some of that.
We woke up to a global community this last Tuesday with a resounding blow. And we're going to spend a great deal of money, which we need to, on our safety of our country and human intel and all of that. Could we not do a program for the next 50 years to get Muslim and global dollars into these moderate, impoverished countries to show them some capitalism and democracy? And, you know, we're only 200 years old, and we're pretty awesome.
We have spent massive amount of money, economic support, military support, all throughout the world. I guess one of my questions is how much are we going to get now from other countries? How much are we going to continue to spend in these other countries when we need it here?
I want to know, how much money do I need to put into the economy every week, aside from my regular bills and utilities? Should I be buying Christmas gifts now to help the economy, to make sure that everybody understands that we are still a country we're ready to fight, we're ready to preserve freedom at any cost?
If every American went out there and bought just a couple of shares of stock of their choice to show their support, it would tell a story. Because this whole thing was to show that they could bring the economics of the world down. And the United States could show the picture with little cost to anybody of just how we support this country and what we're all about.
So let's get an indication of how trading might go here in the United States. We get a preview often every day as to how things might go here by looking overseas to Asia. And overseas this morning, Asia's markets dropped sharply. In Tokyo, the Nikkei stock average fell 5%. Sojiro Takeshita is a senior strategist and director of Mizuho International, and he joins us now from London. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what stocks were being dumped today in Asia?
Well, actually, in Tokyo, everything was down, particularly the export-oriented issues, as Japan was very much reliant on export toward the U.S. And obviously, the yen was strengthening on the back of dollar weakening. There has been a lot of repatriation from the dollar, and for that reason, exporters were sold quite heavily. However, in saying that, I think there were some very interesting and very good teamwork that were displayed by the central banks. There were interventions, and the yen did come back to 118 level, which obviously caused some of the buybacks. But overall, it's a wait-and-see approach. Every eyes are on New York tonight. And of course, for Japan, this couldn't have come at worse timing, considering the fact that we're probably the most vulnerable nation amongst advanced nations on external deviations on, for example, oil prices.
So, Mr. Takeshita, I'm not sure if you answered my question. What stocks were being sold, and if any signs, what stocks were being bought?
Actually, there were some buybacks into a lot of defensive sectors, such as pharmaceuticals and utilities, but on a very, very weak note. Selling side, well, you can start from the electricals and also some of the automobiles. Again, export-oriented issues. And also the banking side, we have a re-emergence of the banking crisis emerging back again as Topix approaches its post-bubble low in October '98. So it's almost an all-out selling spree.
Were there any runs on any Japanese banks? Were consumers looking to get cash out of institutions?
No, not yet. We haven't had that situation yet happening, but it is getting there, I'm sure, because again, we're only 10 points away from post-bubble low in October '98 when the systemic risk amongst the banks were almost about to kick in. So we're definitely getting there, especially with the bankruptcy of Mico, which is one of Japan's largest supermarkets, going bankrupt. And the fact is that most of the Japanese banks that were making loans to those institutions didn't have hardly any provision at all. So there is a lot of, I'd say, anxiety lingering in this arena.
So in terms of the volatility that you saw in the Asian markets, what you saw today, was that primarily large investors and corporations trying to take advantage of the volatility, selling into a falling market and then buying at lower prices, or was it the small investor getting in there and panicking?
No, I don't think no one's trying to take advantage of this situation. I think the consequences of trying to take advantage of the volatility is too big, and it's totally unpredictable how things will be. So I didn't see any investors that were really trying to take advantage of the situation, more like a wait and see, and trying to figure out the consequences in the mid-long run, particularly, again, on the consequences of the oil price rise. Although it may be short-lived, it will hurt Japan without any speck of doubt.
Then let me ask you your perspective on what the United States Securities and Exchange Commission is trying to do, as well as government officials, in building consumer and investor confidence. The Securities Exchange Commission is doing something unprecedented. They're lifting rules on corporations, allowing companies to buy back more of their stock today. The government officials are basically asking for a patriotic crusade and asking investors to hold tight, buy American, build confidence, and they're asking major corporations to smooth out trading, to not take advantage of the volatility, to try to resist short-term trading strategies for the betterment of the market. How likely is that to work in a free market economy?
Well, I think it is a very, very difficult task, but I think, on the other hand, I think everybody knows that we're in this together. This is not only a unique incident to United States, and even if it was, the fact is the world is moving around the United States, particularly in the past 2-3 years. It's very clear that we have to have our pillars standing very strong and straight, and that's, of course, the United States, and I think we can consider this as an extraordinary caution. That's why you're seeing all the corporations amongst all the central banks, including Bank of Japan's activity, to intervene to the FX market today. So I think there will be some kind of a consensus to try to make better out of this situation, and then rather than going to a spiral.
So isn't it, in terms of trying to do the right thing, in other words, trying to apply altruism to a free market economy, isn't this what Japan's government tried to do back in the 90s to ease some of the volatility and build confidence there? Because I don't think it worked.
No, it's very difficult, but I think what you have to realize is in Japan's case, they were trying to live the old vested interest. They were trying to rejuvenate the economy through the old ways of doing things, which wasn't necessarily right, and that itself certainly didn't match the market perspectives of the future, and of course collided against the market mechanism. However, in this case, I think it's a bit different. This is more like an emergency measures that brings it back to normal. So I think you're talking about a totally different thing. And in case of Japan, I think the outcome of perpetuating such, turning the clock backward type of operation is already revealing in 140% debt to GDP ratio.
Thank you very much, Sujiro Takeshita, coming to us live from London this morning, watching the Asian markets, which did not do very well today, Leon.
But you know what? This new week means more than just the markets opening, with the New York Stock Exchange ending its hiatus this morning. It also means the resumption of some American traditions. Now, for the first time since the attacks, Major League Baseball will resume play. There was a lot of talk, a lot of hand-wringing last week about when would be the appropriate time to do that. Well, 6 games are scheduled for today. Security has been increased at ballparks around the country, and you will notice, in addition to the uniforms that you see today, U.S. flags will be prominently displayed on them.
All right, let's go to Mark Potter at the Pentagon for more on the investigation and the scene there. Good morning, Mark.
Well, good morning, Carol. U.S. officials say the new war on terrorism will not be a conventional war, and it will not be conducted over days or weeks. It will take years. Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld says fighting the hidden terrorism networks will take the full weight of the U.S. government in collaboration with other countries. The effort, he says, will also have diplomatic and economic components, with a heavy emphasis on intelligence gathering and unconventional military tactics. And he warns it will not be a war where the U.S. can simply fire off cruise missiles and bomb targets from high altitudes.
Terrorists can attack at any time, in any place, using any technique, and it is physically impossible for a free people to try to defend in every place at every time against every technique. Now, what does that mean? It means that the president is exactly right, that we have to take this battle, this war, to the terrorists where they are. And the best defense is an effective offense in this case, and that means they have to be rooted out.
At the Pentagon this morning, workers continue to remove debris as FBI agents collect evidence. Also on scene are volunteers providing food and other supplies.